Peace be with you. Welcome to the Intelligent Life. My name is Ali Muhammad Kartar Puri, also known as Allan Keislar, and we are continuing what has now become our daily reading from 4 scriptures, or 5 now, although I haven't exactly decided what to read from the Guru Granth Sahib, but we will read something from that. And we will begin reading from the Holy Quran. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. We are reading from Surah 26, Shuara, or the Poets. And today we are reading the 7th verse of this chapter. Do they not look at the earth, how many noble things of all kinds we have produced therein? Wow. So here, God is asking us, Allah is asking, do these people who don't believe not look at the earth, how many wonderful signs God has given us, how many noble things of all kinds are produced from the earth. And it's amazing. The trees and food grains and vegetables grow from the earth. So many things are produced from the earth. And this is a sign of how great God is and how kind and merciful. God is the most merciful. We cannot conceive of how wonderful, merciful, and great God is, that from the earth so many incredible things are produced. Why is it that people don't realize this? It's hard to understand. It's only because of the bad education that we have been given in our so-called schools and universities. Otherwise, every sincere, at least, every simple person can see it's absolutely miraculous how all these things come up out of the earth. This is clear evidence that there is a God who is very kind and merciful to us and supplies us with all the things that we need. So, we'll go on to the Bible. We are reading today the, let's see, which verse is it? This is the 7th verse of the 1st chapter of the book of Ezekiel. Their legs were and the soles of their feet. So here is another description of burnished bronze, as we had seen a couple of verses ago. A few verses ago in the 4th verse, it described how in the midst of the fire there was this flashing coming forth continuously like gleaming bronze. And here the feet of these extraterrestrial beings or angels or heavenly beings, whatever you want to call them, their feet sparkled like burnished bronze also. So bronze also has a slightly reddish but very shining, bright shining surface. So the feet, the soles of the feet of these beings were also shining like polished or burnished bronze. So this is another indication that there is a whole variety of living beings, intelligent beings throughout the universe, creation, not only in what we can see when we look up in the sky at night, but throughout many other dimensions and densities and areas of reality which we can hardly conceive of even. We can't conceive of them all, actually. And they all are filled with amazing beings. The creation of God is unlimited and inconceivable We cannot calculate even how many planets there are. I can't remember the exact figures, but now astronomers tell us that we are not the only galaxy. This we've known for 100 years or so. Before that, astronomers only knew about our one galaxy. And then about 100 years ago or so, they discovered, wait, this Andromeda grouping of stars, or a cloud sort of it looked like, when their telescopes became more powerful, they saw this is actually just like a whole separate galaxy, much farther away than any of the other stars. And then gradually they realized there are many galaxies. Each and every galaxy has millions or billions of stars in it. And then they discovered more and more and more galaxies, and now we know there are millions or billions of galaxies, each one of which has millions or billions of stars. And each star apparently has planets also. And each planet, quite likely, has millions and billions of living beings on it. So how can we calculate how many living beings there are? It's impossible. This is how great God is. We say God is great. Allahu Akbar. But how great God is, we cannot even begin to imagine. Just the size of this one creation, which we can see with our eyes and with our telescopes. This is totally inconceivable. And there are many other different dimensions of reality beyond what we can see with our eyes and telescopes. So it is impossible for us to even begin to calculate the greatness of God. All right, we will go on to the Dhammapada. We are reading chapter 10. We have come to the 13th verse. Not wandering naked, nor matted locks, nor filth, nor fasting, nor lying on the ground, nor dust, nor ashes, nor striving, squatting on the heels, can purify a mortal who has not overcome doubts. So, another very deep instruction here. There are many, many attempts that people make, yogis especially, to wander around naked. There are, in fact, in the Jain religion, there's a whole sect of the Jains in which the monks wander around naked, literally. They don't wear any clothes. Not only in the Indian religion, but in many other cultures also, there's a practice of matted locks, where people don't comb their hair and just let the hair become into dreadlocks. Nor filth. Some people feel that just wandering, not even bathing, just lying in the dirt is either a sign of saintliness or a process of self-realization. Fasting, of course, is universal in every religion and every spiritual teaching that one should fast from time to time. And some people think by fasting long periods of time, for days and weeks, sometimes even months, they can gain some sort of purification or spiritual benefit. So all these other ways, lying on the ground. I'm just looking at the comments here. It explains each one of these things. Anyway, not bathing, and in some sects also in Hinduism, they literally smear the body with ashes, some ascetics. And all these different practices, the Buddha is here explaining, they don't do any good if somebody has doubts. If one cannot overcome doubts, all these different ascetic practices will not do any good. Of course, that was one of the Buddha's main messages, the middle way. No extremes. Do not become extremely ascetic, as the Buddha himself tried. He practiced such severe austerities that he almost died from fasting for a long, long period of time. And he restrained his breathing even, and he fainted once. There's a story. He was practicing such severe austerities in a very sincere, although misguided, attempt to find the truth and to learn the truth by ascetic practices. He finally literally fainted and fell into a river. And it just happened that a village girl was passing by and saw him and helped him, pulled him out of the river. And when he came back to consciousness, he realized that this is not the proper way to try to achieve self-realization or to understand the truth. And he gave up that severe austere practice. And from then on, he taught the middle way. No excessive enjoyment of material life and no excessive rejection by asceticism. So this is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, is the middle way. Okay. Finally, we'll go on to the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 5. We're continuing in verse 14. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So this is a further explanation of the same kind of realization, deep realization that was explained in the verses we read yesterday and the day before. Yesterday's verse, embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions. He happily resides in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So this is further explained here, in case we didn't understand, that the embodied spirit, the soul, is living within the body, we can say, is the master of the body. So the spirit or the soul does not create activities. That's what we discussed yesterday also. We're not actually doing the activities that this body does. That's what we think. If we do something good, something great, we think, oh, I'm so wonderful, I'm so powerful, I'm so great, I did this or that. No, that's all by the mercy of God, through the instrumentality of the material nature that all these things are being done. And nor does he induce people to act. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm such a great spiritual teacher, look at all the people who I've taught, and they're all doing good things now. Or if somebody's a criminal, and he may get many followers engaging in the criminal acts, he thinks, oh, I've gotten all these people to follow me. Or a politician who's maybe somewhere in between. Good politicians may get a lot of people to do something good, they feel. And accomplished criminals may get people into a lot of criminal gangs and mafias and think they're very successful in it. Politicians may be both kinds. There may be good politicians like Imran Khan who are inducing people to good activities, and there are bad politicians whose names we don't have to mention who engage in a lot of corruption themselves and get a lot of other people engaged in corruption. So the ones who are powerful and think they've accomplished so much, they think, I'm doing this all. No. Nor does the Spirit induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. So we usually think when we work hard and make money, oh, I've made so much money. The fruits of the action, the results of our activities, we often think of in terms of money. Somebody who's rich, he often thinks, oh, I worked so hard and made so much money. Look at these poor people. They are not working hard. If they worked hard, they would make money like me. No. We cannot create the fruits of our activities. That is all the mercy of God. And it is done, as this verse explains, through the modes of material nature. There's a long explanation behind this. Just very briefly, according to the Bhagavad-gita, there are 3 modes, which are called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So all of material nature is divided into, you might say, these three types, three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So goodness means knowledge and understanding, kindness and compassion, light, truth. This is all good. And we observe goodness in this world. And there's also passion. Passion means especially working very hard, and pride is an example of the result of compassion. A material enjoyment is a sign of passion. And this is another way that the material nature acts, or induces us to act, we could say, in one of these ways. And finally, ignorance. Ignorance and darkness and delusion and intoxication. This is the third way in which the material nature is explained to control activities. So these three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are always acting and competing even, you might say, to get the upper hand. So it's interesting that even goodness is a mode of material nature. Of course, there's also transcendental or spiritual goodness, which is different than ordinary material goodness. Just means like a philosopher or a poet or a musician who does something very elevating for humanity. Not degraded type of musicians, of course, or degraded types of poets. But it's elevating for humanity to hear refined poetry and philosophy, and spiritual music, or not spiritual, but heavenly music, we might say, music that elevates the spirit. So that's good, but that's not spiritual. There's a very deep instruction here about the modes of material nature, how everything is actually being done by these modes, actions, inducements to action. These are being done by goodness and by passion, which is that mood of working very, very hard, trying to enjoy material life, especially sexual enjoyment is the epitome of passion. And then ignorance, which is just darkness and confusion and going everything backwards, everything the wrong way, into more and more darkness. And so these three modes are actually, according to the Bhagavad-gita, how everything is being carried out under the direction of God, of course, but through the agency of material nature. And in fact, if we study this, we will be able to understand how things are happening in this material world, in these three different types of, or modes of nature. And as we gradually understand them, we can see, again, it's like we were talking about the day before yesterday, about stepping back, observing, instead of getting entangled in our actions and striving hard for the fruits of our actions. We just step back. Then we can understand how everything is being carried on by material nature. And we're not actually doing it. What are we doing? We're desiring. This is what the Buddha explained. We are desiring, and as a result of our desires, we become entangled and we suffer. And the goal of human life, according to the Buddha, is to become free from those types of desires and become detached. And then, of course, the real solution is to desire the service of God and to enjoy service on the spiritual platform, serving God and serving the servants of God. That is the way we become free of our selfish desires. So there's a lot of instruction in these holy books. It takes a little background to understand some of these verses. But we will go now to see if there's any comments or questions. All right. So Malik Imran Ali says, Assalamu alaikum sir, मैं मालिक इमरान अली बात कर रहा हूँ और सुनाइए क्या हाल है जी। मैं आपको वीडियो कॉल पर कॉल कर रहा था तो आपने नहीं कि कैसे। हाँ, कि मैं तैयारी कर रहा था इस चैट के लिए और बार बार तुमने, तो मैं अभी रोज़ाना यहाँ कैलिफोर्निया में 7 बजे सुबह ये क्लास कर रहा हूँ और तुमने 5 मिनट क्लास से पहले कॉल किया इसलिए मैं नहीं उठा सका क्योंकि मैं तैयारी कर रहा था, मुझे माफ़ करना. So let's see. Abid Zaidi says true. And then he goes on, can you talk more about doubts in this verse of Dhammapada? What kind of doubts? Very good question. In fact, let me get the Dhammapada out because it explains it. All of these verses that we have in all the scriptures, there have been commentaries on them. So fortunately in the Dhammapada, this book that I have, there is a commentary and it explains specifically what this means about overcoming doubts. It says, with regard to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, etc. So the basic mantra of Buddhism, you might say, the most fundamental prayer which Buddhists repeat regularly, just as Christians repeat the Lord's Prayer and Hindus repeat the Gayatri Mantra or other Maha Mantras. Similarly, of course, Muslims recite the Al-Fatiha, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Amin. Every Muslim must recite that at least once a day, or 5 times, or 17 times a day actually, according to the full schedule of 5 daily prayers and certain numbers of recitations in each one. So the Buddhists also recite Buddhang Sharanang Gacchami, Dhammang Sharanang Gacchami, Shanghang Sharanang Gacchami. This is the fundamental mantra or prayer of the Buddhists. So what this commentary is explaining with regard to doubts is what kind of doubts means doubting the Buddha, doubting the Prophet, doubting the Scripture. The Dhamma means usually it's translated religion, but Dhamma really means also the law. Dhamma means the whole process of spiritual training and understanding. And finally, the Sangha. The Sangha is the group of the followers, the saintly association, the Ummah. So we should not doubt God and His scriptures. We should not doubt the saints, these 3 things. If we doubt them, then that's the source of our knowledge, So if we doubt the Prophet or the Buddha, if we doubt the Ummah, the Sangha, and if we doubt the Holy Quran or Holy Bible or Dhammapada or Bhagavad-gita, then we will be lost because those are the sources of our knowledge. So we should not doubt the sources of our knowledge, or we'll never be able to achieve anything, no matter how many austerities we practice. That's what's being explained here. So very good question. That's the explanation of the commentary, especially what doubts means. Very good question, Abid Zaidi Sahib, thank you. And another comment from Abid Zaidi, food for thought. Material nature has nothing to do with our spiritual side. Yes, that's true. The material nature is separate from our spiritual side. That's in fact what the Bhagavad-gita is explaining here, that the spirit, the soul, is in the body, but not in the body really, but is related to the body. And spiritual realization and spiritual life is quite different. And no matter how much we do with our body in terms of practicing difficult austerities, that's not going to bring us spiritual realization. However, and this is what material nature has, these 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So that goodness in material and spirit, when we become good, our mind becomes peaceful, and then we can receive spiritual instruction more easily. So it's always advised to become good, to become free from ignorance especially, become free from intoxication, become free from delusion, and also then become free from passion, become free from this desire to work very hard and accomplish so much and accumulate so much and enjoy so much of material life, and come to the platform of goodness, which is also material. It's not spiritual, you're right. But even goodness, which means peacefulness and, not being grossly selfish, that is material too. But it brings us, when we become good, then we become more receptive to spiritual guidance, and we can accept it more easily. Our doubts get cleared off in the mode of goodness. So all these material types of activities that certain yogis and ascetics try in order to supposedly achieve spiritual realization, no, they don't. No material activities will. But what are spiritual activities are especially chanting the name of God, calling on the name of God, praying. These spiritual activities are the result of coming to the mode of goodness. When we come to the mode of goodness, then we can practice these religious activities properly, and that will bring us spiritual benefit. But even religious activities, if they're done in a mode of passion, or even religious activities, if done in a mode of passion or ignorance, don't benefit us very much. Maybe a little bit, but hardly. So one has to become good, materially good, develop knowledge, cultivate knowledge, and that brings us to a platform in which we can become free from doubts. Not all these material activities don't help us overcome doubts. So yes, this is a very good point you've made. Thank you, Abid Zaidi Sahib. And Ejaz Ahmed says, Sir, pray for Rabia Irshad, Ya Allah Malik. Rabia Irshad par Rahm Farma. Please, God, be merciful to Rabia Irshad. We have a request from Ejaz Ahmed for praying for her. So let us all pray. Prayer really works. So if we all pray, we will see Rabia Irshad ji getting a lot of mercy from God and from Allah and from His dear ones. Khadija Zahid says, when you move to Pakistan, will you still be able to give the live lectures? Because something tells me that you'll be very busy in Kartarpur. No, I'll still give the live lectures. This will be my main business, in fact. Inshallah, I will move to Kartarpur and have plenty of time to give these live lectures. Okay, Abid Zaidi says, understood. Very good, thank you. Abid Zaidi goes on, understood. Thank you for answering my question. I agree, we should not doubt. Actually, there's nothing wrong with doubting if it's sincere doubt, because we should not accept anything blindly. But once things are explained to us clearly, then if we are sincere, our doubts will get cleared off simply by that hearing. If we're fortunate enough to hear from a qualified person who explains the truth in a very simple and palatable way, then our doubts will get cleared off very easily. And if we hear from the wrong person, then we'll become more confused and misled. So this is the mercy of God when we get to hear the truth in a nice way, pleasant way, happy way. Because the truth is always, sometimes it's a little unpleasant when we have wrong ideas. To get those wrong ideas corrected may be a little bit difficult. But as we do that hearing process, that hearing process itself purifies our hearts and purifies our doubts, and we become peaceful and happy. So thank you very much, Abid Zaidi, for your very good questions and comments. I think that's enough for today. Thank you all very, very much. I hope to continue these every day at the same time, 7 a.m. in California, which is like 10 a.m. in the East Coast in New York, and it's later in the afternoon and evening in Europe and Middle East, and when we get to Pakistan, it's 8 p.m. Every evening in Pakistan, this class will be given at 8 p.m., God willing. Thank you all very much. Be happy, and may God protect us all.